सरप्राइज टेस्ट भी है क्या? लास्ट क्लास डाउट्स 23rd को लेंगे, ठीक है? थैंक यू। कौन सा टेस्ट है आज? सिलेबस का लेके आया सिलेबस? डोंट गिव मी दिस लुक्स, लास्ट क्लास में बताया था। कौन कौन लाया है या नहीं लाया है? कौन कौन नहीं लाया? नेक्स्ट टाइम से फाइन लगाएंगे 100 रुपीज। चलो नेक्स्ट क्लास में डिस्कस करेंगे, कल डिस्कस करेंगे सिलेबस। So today we are going to discuss these 5 topics: Bonn Conference on Climate Change, 1 year of demonetization, recent economic slowdown, India's Youth Development Index, and finally the National Testing Agency. Sorry. फिनिश हो गया? पहले समझेंगे फिर लिखेंगे. So to understand the Bonn conference, which was held in Germany, but the presidency by Fiji, Yadav. So before understanding the outcomes of the Bonn conference, or at present what are the issues that are going on, or the pre-2020 agenda, or the Talanoa dialogue, the facilitative dialogue being recommended in this particular Bonn conference, or the rule book. Before understanding all these things, let's discuss in brief what exactly is the background of the Kyoto protocols and all. So basically Earth Summit 1992, 5 major outcomes: Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, Agenda 21, CBD, UNFCCC, Forest Principles. CBD के 2-3 points बता दो. Conference on Biodiversity. बोलो जल्दी बोलो. Nagoya Protocol. Next, what is mentioned in Nagoya Protocol? Profit sharing. Aichi targets are there. So these terms are related to CBD. कभी-कभी terms पूछ लेता है. Then we have the UNFCCC and the Forest Principles. Under UNFCCC, we have it is not binding. इसको याद रखना. This particular UNFCCC is not binding, but within UNFCCC we have Kyoto Protocol, which was binding. The first phase was binding, and the second phase of Kyoto Protocol. First phase starts from 2008 to 12. The second phase from 2013 to 2020. After 2020, there will be whatever will be going on at the Paris climate deal that is going to happen. So next we have the major conference on parties, जिसमें सब आते हैं. So the first major conference on party was third. COP started holding every year after 1995. तो वो starting से नहीं है. It started annually holding from 19. What do you mean by summit? Summit क्या होता है? Just the gathering नहीं होता. Where the head of the state comes is regarded as the summit. So every year these head of the states they meet, and the major COP first one was his third. Third में क्या start हुआ था? 1997 Kyoto Protocol. Then the second one is the seventh one. Seventh में क्या हुआ था? Adaptation Fund came in 2001. Then in 16 in Cancun Summit 2010 they declared that Green Climate Fund will be established. So Green Climate Fund of worth $100 billion will start funding all these things after 2020. Now what exactly is the finance mechanism between 2013 and 2020? We don't know right now. Because the developed countries, they agreed to pay, they agreed to whatever actions they are taking, but at present because Kyoto 2 has not been ratified yet. 2013 to 20 applicability hai, 2017 ka summit over, 2018-19 only 2 summits are left, but till date this Kyoto phase 2 has not been ratified. Mechanism, the types of funds, 4-5 types of funds hai, wo baad mein dekhenge. And in the 18th COP there comes the second phase of Kyoto Protocol, and 21 Paris climate deal was 2015, and the last one 2010 COP 21 held in Paris, COP 22 in Marrakesh. याद कर लो अब से UPSC ऐसी क्वेश्चन पूछता है. Marrakesh is in Morocco, and COP 23 in Bonn, or 24 will be in Poland. When the first phase of Kyoto Protocol came, 2018 to 12 applicability, in the month of December 2012, finally Canada decided that we are not going to abide the norms of Kyoto Protocol. Because under Kyoto Protocol, there was no mention that if some country will not agree to whatever they committed, there's no punishment actually. So at the end of the month, they decided that we are not going to abide by the Kyoto Protocol. Then we have the CBDR, common but differentiated responsibility. What exactly it means? It means the developed countries have filled their climate space. This is the total global common of the climate space that is available. Some to the developed countries and rest to the developed countries. So these developed countries has already exhausted their climate budget. ये key words exam में use करने हैं. Climate space, climate budget. So they have already exhausted their climate budget. Now it is because whenever there will be growth and development, it is going to affect the environment. So now the time came when the developing countries wants to increase their this global climate space, and where the developed states they have to retrieve. But again the Trump Baba came and said we are not going to sign the Paris climate deal. उसके बाद क्या होगा वो बाद में देखेंगे. This is what CBDR means, common but differentiated responsibility. Global space is common. We all have the common responsibilities, but because of the historical this also known as the polluters pay principle. If you have polluted more, you should pay to the developing countries. And then it was the top-down approach, under which they said on an average the developed countries have to decrease their carbon emission by 5%. Country-wise different, the average was 5%. This is broad Kyoto 1. Then Kyoto phase 2, one new gas was added. So at present now we have 7 gases. कौन सी? Carbon dioxide. Next, methane. ये पीछे से बताएंगे. Next, carbon dioxide, methane. Next, N2O, nitrous oxide, N2O, NO2, whatever it is. Next, यहाँ से नहीं, यहीं से. SF6. Next, CFC and HFC. HFC की बहुत अच्छी हिस्ट्री है. पता है कुछ? हाइड्रोफ्लोरोकार्बन, हाउ इट इज रिलेटेड टू किगाली एग्रीमेंट और मॉन्ट्रियल प्रोटोकॉल. कोई समराइज करेगा इसको? Montreal Protocol is related to ozone gas depletion. So in 1989, when this Montreal Protocol came into picture, which is mandatory. याद रखना, Montreal Protocol is mandatory. So they want to replace CFC with HFC. इसको replace करना है with HFC because CFC was causing is there. So they wanted to replace it with HFC. Very successfully they replaced in 25 years. But now the problem of HFC is it is having very high global gas emission potential, which roughly equals to 1,000 of times of carbon dioxide. So if you will able to curb only HFC, it is going to decrease the temperature of the global economy by 0.5%. The cap which we are saying in Paris climate deal 2%, or at we should target to 1.5%. So this is only HFC if you the temperature by 0.5%. And how it is related to Kigali agreement? 2-3 points about Kigali. पीछे से कुछ तो पढ़ के आना ही पड़ेगा. बोलो किगाली एग्रीमेंट में क्या था? ठीक है, जैसे 18-19 टाइप्स का होता है वो तो ठीक है. था क्या उसमें? Why India agreed कि HFC, which should ideally come under, because it is having a global house gas potential, so it should come under UNFCCC or it should come under Kyoto. It is already mentioned in Kyoto, and under Kyoto you should pay because we have the polluters pay principle. You have to transfer the technology and all. You will get the carbon credits if you will decrease the HFC in your particular country. But why India agreed that HFC should come under Montreal Protocol also?
It was given larger time to different phase out time for
larger time तो ठीक है, उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है सर? टेक्नोलॉजी तो पैसे से ही आएगी. Why India agreed? Of course, for the developed countries, it is the time frame is different. For the developing countries, time frame is different, and India and all these countries, the time frame is much relaxed. But still, why India agreed? Because India had two options. इसको रब कर दें. Because India had two options. Either to under Kyoto or to consider it under Montreal? Under Kyoto, you will get the benefits of finance, technologies, carbon credits you will get. Under Montreal, it is almost nil. But still, why India agreed? बाइंडिंग तो मॉन्ट्रियल में एक्सेप्ट करोगे तो ही तो बाइंडिंग होगा, साइन करोगे तो बाइंडिंग होगा. ठीक है, इसको होमवर्क लिख लो. एंड हाउ इट इज रिलेटेड टू India's food security issue with WTO, and how it is related to India's food security issue with WTO, Agreement on Agriculture and all. ठीक है, मोदी साहब और साहब ने बैठ के यूएस में एक मीटिंग की थी, थोड़ा सा गूगल करके आना फिर बताएंगे. So this is what we have. The first part, Canada issue we have already discussed, CBDR discussed, top down approach we already discussed. 2013 one new gas was added, so total now we have the 7 gases. Now before 2020 there is something known as pre-2020 agenda. Under this pre-2020 agenda there are various principles. So the first principle is CBDR, or also known as the equity. So this equity, whenever we talk about, it should be intergenerational as well as intragenerational equity. ये concept I think सर्वे ने कवर किया था 2011-12 में. इस डायग्राम को बना लो. Inequality So we have inequality. Inequality leads to affluence, wealth and all these things, which ultimately leads to wastage of the resources, and whenever there will be wastage of the resources, ultimately consequent into the environmental degradation. When there will be inequality in the society, it ends up into the poverty, which increases the population and decreases the choices that you have. If you have less choices, finally converting into the environmental degradation. If you have suppose if your salary is 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees, it doesn't matter whether the availability is of electricity or coal, whichever will be cheap, you are going to consume it. So poverty decreases choices. So this is how the poverty environmental degradation is there. We need growth, we need development, we need exploitation of the natural resources. And intergenerational and intragenerational issues means, इसमें 3 points हैं. Intergenerational equity, first we have is the greenhouse gas emission budget. First लिखो इसमें intergenerational, 3 basic pillars. Intergenerational is greenhouse gas emission budget. Second pillar is greenhouse gas emission rights. Bracket में लिखो, that is carbon space. So every country has been allocated a carbon space. So for example, India has been allocated a carbon space of every year. The budget is like this thing. So this is your right. This carbon space is your right. And the third pillar is impact of climate change. Impact of climate change on future generations. ब्रैकेट में लिख लो, that is carbon footprint. Carbon footprint. And intragenerational equity means, intragenerational means allocation of resources among members. Allocation of resources among members. So the first issue is Kyoto ratification is there. So it has not yet been ratified. So the developing countries wants it to be ratified ASAP. And in the Bonn conference, they have said that the developed countries have to give in return what all steps they have taken under Kyoto 2. Then we have the finance issue that is going on. So the finance issue is further divided into three parts. First one is the developed countries. समझ लो पहले. The developed countries are focusing into mitigation, and the developing countries wants the fund for adaptation, because these small island countries, they are already feeling the heat of climate change, so they need to focus more on the adaptation rather than the mitigation. But the developed countries, they are giving more and more funds under the mitigation thing, and the developing countries wants more fund under the adaptation thing. This is the first basic issue under the finance. The second issue is no new funds they are giving. They said this GCF is there, then so many other types of fund they created. Environment facility they created, and then they created Fast Start Fund. It was applicable only till 2012, and then they started Clean Technology Fund. And so many for resilience also they started. So many funds they have created. But this FSF has been stopped in 2012, and this GCF will start after 2020. So in between this 2013 and 20, what is the finance mechanism? Right now there is no finance mechanism. Sorry. Fast Start Fund was there. For resilience, they created a fund actually. PPCR, Pilot Program for Climate Resilience. PPCR. The name of the fund was PPCR. Pilot Program for Climate Resilience. So different types of funds they have created, but now the developed countries, they are saying whatever funds they have already allocated under World Bank or under IMF and all these things, it should be counted under the financing. And of course the developing countries, they want new funds. This is again the issue of finance between developed and developing countries. And the next we have is related to the technology. So they are saying IPR issues are there and all these things, so they are not transferring the technology, and the developing countries, they are demanding the transferring of the technology. ये miss हो गया था polluters pay. When loss and damage clause is there, so these island countries, they are demanding that you have exhausted your climate space as well as our climate space, so now you have to pay us. वो CDM मैकेनिज्म नहीं है. CDM में क्या था? अंडर CDM मैकेनिज्म was there, Kyoto 1 का थर्ड कंपोनेंट था. बोलो जी. If India is doing something, so if India, suppose karo, you have been credited this 500 carbon credits and India has earned 200 extra carbon credits, so whatever, suppose USA is there or any other developed countries, they will pay you this amount equivalent to this 200 carbon credits and you can sell this carbon credits to USA. ठीक है. So under this particular polluters pay, these island countries, they are saying you have damaged our environment, forget about this thing, you have to pay us even if we are not doing anything to decrease the climate change. Even if we are not doing anything, still you have exhausted our climate space, so now you have to pay us. So this loss and damage clause is there, climate justice is there, and CBDR or equity is there. These are the three principles of pre-2020 agenda. Unfortunately, this pre-2020 agenda was not a part of Bonn conference main agenda, because developed countries somehow they forced Fiji, and Fiji did not included this pre-2020 agenda under the main agenda of Bonn conference. समझ में आ रहा है या थोड़ा ऊपर ऊपर से जा रहा है? फीस रिफंड नहीं करेंगे, बता दो अभी तो. एनीवेज, फाइनेंस हो गया, टेक्नोलॉजी हो गया, क्योटो रेटिफिकेशन हो गया. नेक्स्ट बॉन्ड में क्या हुआ था वो बाद में देखते हैं. नेक्स्ट, आफ्टर 2020 Paris deal will be there. Regular stock taking exercise is going to take place. It will be a bottom up approach. INDCs will be there. Each country will decide their own targets. They will be decided by the countries, and then UNFCCC board will be there, that is going to do the stock taking exercise of these things. 2023 years relevant नहीं है, 2023 से start होगा, and it is applicable for all the nations including developed as well as developing countries. There is no differentiation of Annex 1, Annex 2, Annex B countries and non-Annex countries. जो पहले था वहाँ, इसको होमवर्क लिख लो. Annex 1 क्या था, Annex 2 क्या है, Annex B क्या है, and non-Annex countries क्या है. Now there are 7 pillars of Paris climate deal. First one is mitigation. First is mitigation. Second pillar is adaptation. Third is finance. Fourth, technology development and transfer. Next, capacity building. Sixth, transparency of action and support. Transparency of action and support. And the last one is global stock taking exercises. Global stock taking. So this is rough idea about Bonn conference से पहले क्या हुआ. ठीक है, अब Bonn conference से start करते हैं. नोट्स खोल लो, फोन में फ्रेंड कर लो. You can expect a question in prelims related to this Bonn conference or something. So UNFCCC climate conference held in Bonn. So under the presidency of Fiji, but held at Bonn. इसको याद रखना. Fiji में क्यों नहीं हुआ? Infrastructure issues and all these things. That is why Germany said it will be held in Germany, Bonn, but under the presidency of Fiji. Then we have the first one, the key issues at Bonn climate talks. So first there. So under this particular Paris agreement, the temperature limiting should be 2 degree. Ultimately the focus should be 1.5 degree. but actually whatever has happened we don't know. So there should be a clear set of rules which will be notified under rule book. So this rule book, just like we have under Ramsar agreement, we have some rule book that is known as Montrex records. So similarly for UNFCCC and all this thing, there will be a rule book that is known as rule book itself. So that rule book is going to set the rules which will be applicable for the implementation of Kyoto Protocol phase 2. Then we have after this rule book, and this rule book should be prepared by December 2018. The next one we have is, because we know that Kyoto phase 2 has not been ratified, it means there are some disagreements. So there should be a facilitative agreement, facilitative dialogue between developed and developing countries, that is known as Talanoa dialogues. Ab ye Talanoa is a word that is related to UNFCCC or Paris or Kyoto or something. Kisi mein bhi pooch lega. So Talanoa dialogue is going to start in 2018. So what you want that there should be an inclusive and a transparent consultation with the parties, and that will be held under Talanoa dialogues. Okay? Then pre-2020 agenda. So under pre-2020 agenda, 3 issues. एक issue था Kyoto ratification का, second issue था finance का, third था technology का. तीनों इसमें लिखा हुआ है. So the first is Kyoto Protocol ratification. So the first mandate period of Kyoto Protocol ended in 2012 after Doha amendment. और एक WTO में भी दोहा आता है, उसको होमवर्क लिख लो. ये दो WTO आई थिंक कवर है शायद वीडियो में, एक मेरे YouTube वाले वीडियो में कवर होगा ये. ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन एग्रीमेंट, WTO एंड ऑल दिस करके उसको सर्च कर लेना, WTO बाय M.K. यादव मिल जाएगा. So this Doha mandate actually it introduced the second mandate period. So Kyoto phase 2 2013 to 2020 will be there, but the second mandate period will become operational only after the ratification by 144 countries. अभी तक सिर्फ 84 ने किया है, so नहीं हो रहा. That is what. So under this Bonn conference, the developing countries demanded that there should be a deadline for the ratification of 2012 Doha amendment. Then we have the second issue is related to the finance and technology. So finance wale mein we already discussed 3 issues. First of all, they are focusing more on mitigation rather than adaptation. Second one is they are not giving any new funds. पुराने वाले को accumulation में लगे हुए हैं. और third one is funds related एक और third point something was there. Technology IPR issues will be there anyways. So this 100, so the problem is कि after this we have global climate fund will be there. 2012 तक था fast start fund. अब इसके बीच में क्या है? कुछ भी नहीं. No financing technology, no financing mechanism at present. That is why developing countries want there should be a financing mechanism in between this 2013 and 2020, because the implementation of 2020 or Paris climate deals, its basic lies in the commitment done by the particular period. So if you have committed something, if the developed countries are doing something in this particular phase, then only the developing countries agree that we all will do something for the climate change. If you will not fulfill this particular thing, there are very high chances that developing countries will take off from this Paris climate deal. Next we have is US withdrawal from the Paris agreement by 2020. So when US will agree, there are very high chances that many other countries will withdraw from the Paris climate deal. So similarly, this allegation was there for India in case of compulsory licensing. ये सुना था? बता दो क्या होता है? Compulsory licensing under WTO. पहले तो बताओ legal है या illegal है? Can India do this compulsory licensing under WTO or not? It is mentioned you can do it. ठीक है, next. किस केस में था ये? No where it is. Companies पे नहीं जाएंगे. Not much relevant from exam perspective. The concept. बोलो पल्लवी.
So it allows a country to produce or allow sanction another local company to mass manufacture a drug in case of a public health issue, even though it has been patented, without giving the royalty to the owner company.
रॉयल्टी देना पड़ता है सब्सिडाइज रेट पे, उसका पेटेंट कंटिन्यू रहता है. यू हैव टू पे द रॉयल्टी बट एट अ सब्सिडाइज्ड प्राइस ओनली, नॉट एग्जैक्ट नहीं देना पड़ता. बाकी गूगल कर लेना, कंपल्सरी लाइसेंसिंग होमवर्क लिख लो. Now when India actually generated, because India is a major power of, or India majorly export this generic drug, so if India will do all these activities, there are very high chances that other countries will also follow the footsteps of India. And because the USA economy 25 to 30% is dependent on IPR, so if India, such a major country, will not abide by the rules and regulations of USA, not WTO, it is very much abiding by WTO. If you will not abide by the rules and regulations of USA, this will be the loss. India का तो loss होगा ही, ये वाला भी loss होगा, future loss. एक और concept है इसके regarding March rush, सुना है? very much common है. March rush क्या होता है? Government schemes, the deadline is there, the budget is applicable only for the one financial year. It means the budget which will be presented in 2018, for example, 1st Feb 2018, 1st April 2018 to 31st of March 2019. So whatever funds, for example, under MG Narega, the government gave 48,000 crore. So they are the lapsable funds actually. So Ministry of Rural Development will not have any funds which are left behind. For example, they have consumed only 46,000 crore. So this 2,000 crore funds will be lapsed. So that will be the present loss. एक तो Ministry of Rural Development का 2,000 crore चला गया, एक तो present loss हो गया, एक future loss हो गया. Future क्या loss हुआ? When they will demand this demand for grants from the Ministry of Finance next year 2019 में, so they will say, यार last year you used only 46,000 crore. So this year we will give you only 40,000 crore. So this is known as the March rush. So in the month of the March, these ministry and all, they want to spend majority of the funds they have. उसमें भी is very much similar to this thing. ये relate कर लेना concepts कैसे कैसे. So India का loss है plus future national loss है, because if other countries will abide or follow the same footsteps, तो वो वाला loss होगा. Similarly अभी USA as well as some other countries का भी loss.
What is the loss of India from compulsory licensing?
What is?
The loss of India from compulsory licensing.
Priority 301 में डाल दिया. Then we have the global finance. The next one we have global finance to power past coal. लास्ट ईयर शायद एक क्वेश्चन आया था, नेशनल या नेशनल सोलर अलायंस में कौन कौन से पार्टनर है, इस पे क्वेश्चन आया था. That concept was in news. So this concept, new concept came under Bonn. Global alliance to power past coal. It means whatever be the dependency of these countries on coal will be removed by 2030. But India is not a part of this thing. Very obvious reasons. Because 70% of power generation is dependent on coal only. So it is under the leadership of Canada and Britain. And National Solar Alliance is under the leadership of India and France. And next we have is the Gender Action Plan. So again for the first time, feminism chala gaya, climate change maybe. So this Gender Action Plan, it aims to make women part of all the climate change projects and decisions internationally and nationally. So the issues like climate refugees we have. So under this climate refugees, this pregnant women, health of women due to this climate issues, all these issues will be dealt holistically if women is a part of this climate change issues. That is why for the first time under UNFCCC, this Gender Action Plan came. Then some other developments. Issue Resilience Initiative. ये सब pre के लिए relevant है. So issue is related to Insurance Resilience Initiative initiated by Germany worth $125 million. Then Biofuture Vision Statement. This is endorsed by Brazil for scaling up the low carbon bioeconomy. Then India and under this and France, they increased their target to 1000 gigawatts. Then something known as border tax, a new concept came. Border tax is applicable to those countries which are not implementing the Paris climate deal. So abhi tak to ek hi hai. So now it will be against the USA. So whatever goods and services you are going to import and export from USA, you have to pay something known as border tax. But iske case mein to WTO aa jayega, because under WTO there are basic principles, and this one of the major non-discriminatory principle is non-discriminatory. Under this non-discriminatory we have two sub-principle: most favored nations and national treatment. अब आपने फ्रांस को भी MFN दे रखा है और आपने USA को भी दे रखा है, अब इस पे एक्स्ट्रा टैक्स कैसे लगाओगे? वापस ड्रैग करके लेके जाएगा WTO में. Anyways, the concept of border tax is this. How it will be implemented right now we don't know, but this is what the concept of the border tax is. कि the countries which are not implementing Paris talks, they have to pay an extra tax, and whatever the money will be accumulated, that will be used for the climate change. Anyways, there are 5 basic principles of WTO. बताएगा कोई? तो गया? Safety values are there. Safeguard mechanism or safety values. One more. Next. What? अरे नहीं, agreement on agriculture is not part of this. अरे वो सब अलग है, हम बेसिक प्रिंसिपल्स की बात कर रहे हैं. फेयर ट्रेड के लिए ही है ये नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी वाला. वन मोर इज रेसिप्रोसिटी. लिख लो रेसिप्रोसिटी. देन बाइंडिंग एंड एनफोर्सेबल कमिटमेंट्स. एंड लास्ट इज ट्रांसपेरेंसी. सेकेंड था सेफ्टी वाला, transparency.
Reciprocity, non-discrimination, binding and enforcement.
First one we have is non-discriminatory, under which we have 2 sub-principles. Second one we have is the safety. Then we have transparency. Then we have reciprocity. And the last we have is binding and enforcing commitments. Somebody was asking some doubt. वो फोन फ्रेंड कर लिया करो यार. So these are the funds basically. Climate fund is there. So the commitment was of $100 billion. अभी तक आया $10 billion, and that too this is a promise. आया नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं है, सिर्फ promise है $10 billion का. Then we have is the CTF, PPCR, GEF and all these things. So these are the major funds pledged by the developed country. So this is one more data, that is emissions from major countries, and by EU is roughly 4 times. This is what the historical space being consumed or occupied by the developed countries in comparison to India. ये फिगर याद रखना होगा. इंडिया का 6 times किया है USA ने, almost 4 times किया है EU and China ने. The climate space occupied by this thing. Then we have the absolute carbon dioxide emission. So this is what the absolute is. So in case of India, it is roughly 2 or 3 gigatons. The maximum consumption in absolute terms is by China, and in terms of per capita is by USA. ठीक है?
Is there any specific source? You should also mention the source of this any specific committee or
ये वाला सब सर्वे का है. हाँ, इकोनॉमिक सर्वे 1516 यूनिट नंबर 8 पेज नंबर 3. ये सोर्सेज मेजॉरिटी इको सर्वे होंगे या यूएन रिपोर्ट्स होंगे, या इसमें नोट्स में दिया होगा, लास्ट में दिया होगा सोर्सेज एंड ऑल में. वो नोट्स के सोर्सेज होते हैं. मेरे सोर्सेज यूजुअली सर्वे या IMF वहीं से होंगे. मोस्ट प्रोबेबली सर्वे होता है, लास्ट 6 years का सर्वे उसमें से होता है. तो इनइक्वालिटी वाला जो वो बताया था, डायग्राम बताया था, वो भी सर्वे से था. दिस इज ऑल्सो सर्वे. देन पर कैपिटा कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एमिशंस, छोड़ो इसके लिए जरूरत नहीं है. And why India cannot accept this power past coal? Because of this thing. Because in case of India, this is what maximum 70% is through the thermal only out of total 330. So at present the installed capacity is 330 gigawatt. उसमें से 215 220. So India cannot afford. Even Germany cannot afford. Bonn में हुआ था, जर्मनी ने ही साइन नहीं किया. And within this particular installed capacity, solar का कितना renewable energy कितना है? This one we have is. So the maximum is from the wind. ये solar वाला increase हो गया अभी 5% हो गया. 2016 का डेटा है. Last year India added 11 gigawatt under solar, highest till date. फिर वो solar alliance कैसे करेंगे? You have to increase. Next Telenor dialogue is there. So this Telenor dialogue is nothing but it is a process of inclusive, participatory and transparent dialogue under which the ideas, skills, experience and all will be shared through storytelling. This is a concept actually in physics. And then it is based on the principle of trust. इसको याद रखना बस. It is based on the principle of trust. Trust between developed and developing countries. सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की थ्योरीज पढ़ी हैं क्या? पढ़ी हैं? इमाइल डोरखाइम, देन होमवर्क लिख लो. सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बेसिस यूजुअली एथिक्स में यूज कर लेते हैं. Actually, they talk about the relationship between society and individuals. So Durkheim said कि society is, it continues actually, society and individuals. पहले पढ़ के आना फिर डिस्कस करेंगे, अभी समझ नहीं आएगा. Then we have what is the Doha Amendment to Kyoto Protocol. Second paid periods and all these things we already discussed. Nitrogen trifluoride. The seventh gas headed is nitrogen trifluoride. ठीक है. हाँ, the thing is under this second commitment period it affects only the 14% of global emission और वो भी ratify नहीं हो रहा है. Under that first Kyoto Protocol and the second Kyoto Protocol, the second Kyoto Protocol is going to affect only 14% of the total global climate emissions, and this has not been even ratified because USA, Canada, Japan, Russia, all these countries are not a part of Kyoto Protocol phase 2. Whatever the remaining countries, EU, Australia and all, they agreed and they even have not yet ratified this particular Kyoto Protocol. So even if it will be ratified, not much substantial change on the grounds. Then we have is the, and what is the India's commitment? क्या commitment है इंडिया का? Under INDC क्या है sir? First one is the first commitment. लिखा है इस पे, आगे लिखा. Reduce emission intensity of GDP by 33 to 35%. इस पे क्वेश्चन नहीं आया, कभी आ सकता है. Reduce next page पे. Page 6. Reduce emission intensity of GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030 from 2005 levels. ये सब याद करना है. Deadline क्या है, कौन सा basis and all. The second one is 40% electricity from non-fossil fuel. And third one is create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons. दो definitions होती हैं. एक कार्बन सिक्वेस्ट्रेशन और एक कार्बन ऑफसेटिंग. क्या होता है? कार्बन सिक्वेस्ट्रेशन मीन्स व्हाट?
You store it under
सिंक 2.5 to 3 वाला. कार्बन सिक्वेस्ट्रेशन मीन्स व्हाट? स्टोर किया, अंदर डाल दिया. दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव 2.5 to 3. एंड कार्बन ऑफसेटिंग मीन्स
to nullify it, like what you can.
offsetting its impact rather than consuming carbon, consume renewable energy and all. This is known as the carbon offsetting. इसको एक बार पढ़ लो. India's INDC climate change contributions. Actually, in international, all these commitments, what you are doing doesn't matter much, but in which alliance you are matters, in which web of alliance you are. Because as present India's commitment, we are going to fulfill all these commitments much before 2030. But there was no appreciation of India in Bonn.
Sir, additional forest cover is not being implemented at that rate as solar and everything is going on. So how are we assuming it will be way before 2030 we'll have 3?
Survey is saying कि way before 2030 first हो जाएगा, second हो जाएगा. Carbon sinking के लिए not only we need this forest and all. Carbon manually भी हो सकता है, industrial भी हो सकता है. वो किया और डाल दिया. Just like nuclear waste को जैसे हम करते हैं. So not only naturally हो, anthropogenic उससे भी हो सकता है. That is also a possibility.
Explicitly mentioned we are going to use only forest and trees.
Forest cover नहीं होगा, tree cover तो हो ही सकता है. ट्री कवर लिखा है, ट्री कवर बाय 2030. एडिशनल फॉरेस्ट एंड ट्री कवर. ट्री कवर इज पॉसिबल. डिफरेंस बताया था उस दिन, अभिमन्यु बता रहा था. बोलो सर. फॉरेस्ट एरिया
नेचुरल होता है.
बोनी ही खराब कर दी. Recognized and notified by the government for 1 hectare minimum, and the canopy cover should be more than 10%. Yes, that is known as forest area. Then we have the forest cover, actual. Then we have the tree cover, under which there is no constraint of 1 hectare of minimum area is there, and the canopy cover of 10%. Anyways, next the positive outcomes of the Bonn conference. So the first positive outcome is it passed the litmus test that even after this USA, there is still need of Paris conference and the world is united for Paris deal. So first and the major thing is it passed the litmus test and the world is stand united even without USA. That is a big thing. The second one we have is the rule book that is being created. Clear cut set of rules will be there, written rules will be there. The third one we have is the focus on the agriculture. So in case of agriculture, agriculture is a reason and consequence of climate change. Productivity in agriculture is a reason and consequence of climate change. Agriculture causes climate change and climate change deteriorates agriculture. Both affects each other. Land use change and forest. So for example, we have any forest land which will be converted into agriculture land, or will be converted into industrial area, or maybe habitation purpose, or within this agriculture we have livestock. Then we have this jhuming and all, stubble burning, system of rice intensification, a major causes of the global climate change. So this agriculture is again one of the major source of the climate change, or the one of the major reasons of climate change. So for the first time this agriculture has been emphasized. The focus on agriculture was for the first time highlighted in this Bonn conference. The second one is progress in raising the importance of gender and indigenous people. The global stock taking is going to take place. Biomass will be there, then fertilizer agriculture. And why it is a big victory for India? Although pre-2020 obligations were not a part of the main agenda, but at the end of this particular conference, there were 2-3 things. First one is developed countries were asked to provide the written information by May 2018 on the steps they were taking to fulfill their pre-2020 obligations. So first thing, they have to give a written reply. The second one is two stock taking exercises will be done in 2018 and 19. And the third one we have is joint letters to all the countries that have not yet ratified the Doha Amendment. It means ratification of Quota 2 phase will be there. And the last good thing is consultative dialogue is going to take place. So all these are the positive outcomes of the Bonn conference. Can be asked in mains. Pre ke liye itna zaruri nahi hai. Then we have the outstanding concerns and challenges. So the same जो नहीं हुआ वो सब outstanding concerns and challenges आ गया. Big issues को push कर दिया. Slow response on emission reduction commitment is there. Green climate fund paper पे है, actual में नहीं है. Only $10 billion has been induced. Then we have the excessive coal dependency is there. So the countries like China, so they are decreasing their global greenhouse gas emission by exporting these thermal based power plants under different countries. So खुद का decrease हो गया, वहाँ का increase कर दिया. एक क्वेश्चन आया था, शायद एग्जैक्टली लैंड ग्रैबिंग वर्ड यूज नहीं किया था, बट दे आस्क्ड समथिंग इंडियाज एंड चाइनाज इंक्रीज इन इन्वेस्टमेंट इन द एग्रीकल्चर लैंड ऑफ अफ्रीका. मेंस में आया था कभी क्वेश्चन, इंडिया एंड चाइना वाला 2-3 years बैक आया हुआ. 14-15 में आया था, कभी आया था 15 एंड ऑल्सो. एक्चुअली एट दैट टाइम लैंड ग्रैबिंग वाज टू मच इन यूज. चाइना वाज यूजिंग टू मच ऑफ फर्टिलाइजर्स, कैश क्रॉप्स ग्रो कर रहा था अफ्रीका में एंड सेंट्रल एशियन कंट्रीज में, and also उसका soil degradation decrease हो रहा था. That is why it was in use. And then inadequacy of INDCs is there, that even if whatever commitments given by the developed and developing countries, present commitments will increase the temperature by 3 degrees Celsius, because 1 degree तो already increase हो चुका है. In 2015 we crossed this 1 degree वाला. One of the major reason of this increase of 1 degree in 2015 is it was the warmest year, was because of El Nino. अब एक तो होमवर्क लिखो और फिर हल्का हल्का बता दो. एल नीना और बता दो मैडम, आप बता दो. इंडियन ओशन डाइपोल मोड़ोकी. ज्योग्राफी ऑप्शनल. सोशल अच्छा, सोशियोलॉजी में भी आता है, नहीं पता. INSO ENSO एंड उसके अलावा कुछ 2-3 न्यू कंसेप्ट्स आए होंगे. हो गया सर. Then how Indian Ocean, positive Indian Ocean dipole is related to El Nino and La Nina, and how negative Indian Ocean dipole is related to El Nino and La Nina. ठीक है. Then we have the impact of US withdrawal. So all these are the challenges are there. Then the skewed approach is there. So the more and more focus is on the mitigation rather than the adaptation. And the last one is the loss and damage clause. So it was not mentioned under Bonn. All these small island compensation for this particular global space being consumed by the developed country. So all these are the issues and the outstanding challenges and all. Then what are India's ongoing efforts to achieve its climate objective? So Modi Sahab, as always, they said we will go above and beyond the Paris Agreement. Just like पूना पैक्ट ऑफ 1932. 32 में था क्या? गांधी एंड अंबेडकर. सो एक तो होमवर्क लिख लो. 1857, 1905, 1930 and 1942. How the approach, the methods used by freedom fighters during all these revolutions, how they changed actually after 1857, 1905, Swaraj, civil disobedience, non-cooperation and quit India movement. एक क्वेश्चन आया था 2013 और 14 में. The evolution or change in ideology of Indian freedom struggles, freedom fighters during the freedom struggle from 1857 to 1947. So how it changed actually. So they asked this thing.
This year also they have asked one question.
This year भी पूछा है, क्या पूछा है?
Like how the techniques are different in 1920s.
अच्छा, only specific to 1920 पूछा. Okay, fair enough. 1909 सेपरेट इलेक्टोरेट कब आया था? 1909. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट? There was no Government of India Act in 1909. 1919 में क्या आया था? मेजर थिंग डायर क्या आया था? सेंटर में, स्टेट में? प्रोविंसेस में. वो शिफ्ट हो गया था सेंटर में, इंप्लीमेंट नहीं हुआ. एनीवेज, so within this, when the separate electorate came for SC and ST in 1909, at that time Gandhi and all these things came. Finally the Pune Pact. बाकी सब पढ़ लेना. नहीं आया था? अच्छा, कम्युनल अवार्ड आया था. ठीक ठीक है, ठीक है. थर्ड राउंड, फर्स्ट सेकंड एंड थर्ड राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस, वो भी पढ़ लो. ये जस्ट विकिपीडिया पे जाके पढ़ना, और कहीं पढ़ना. Then we have a new report released at Bonn conference observed that India was likely to overachieve its target for 2020 and on course to achieve the promises made in the NDC for the year 2030. But politics overrules climate change discussions. So that is why nobody actually appreciated India's efforts. फिर कुछ गवर्नमेंट के स्कीम्स हैं एंड फ्लैगशिप प्रोग्राम, स्मार्ट सिटी मिशन एंड ऑल, ये सब देख लेना. ठीक है. जितने भी क्लास के टॉपिक्स हो रहे हैं, आई नीड कीवर्ड्स फॉर ऑल दिस टॉपिक्स. एटलीस्ट 4 or 5 कीवर्ड्स पर टॉपिक. कौन बनाएगा? 1. सिलेक्शन के बाद चले जाओ. लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए मुझे टिल मेंस. 1 और कोई? हाँ, अभिमन्यु. समटाइम्स आई आस्क, समटाइम्स आई टेल. 1 and 2, अमित एंड दिस. ठीक है. एवरी हैंड पे आप ग्रुप. So this is what the renewable energy installed capacity in the world at the end of 2016. Maximum China, second USA, third Germany, fourth India. So in renewable energy we are doing really good in comparison to the world. Fourth largest, China is the world largest. In case of in all these countries the maximum is by the wind. 167 था, 170 तक याद रख लो. 170 gigawatt has already been installed by China.
I think wind energy, India is number 1 across the world. In wind.
This is wind, this is solar, this is other renewable.
Last December 2016 was reported.
नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. सॉरी, विद इन इंडिया में रेन्यूएबल में विंड, विद इन इंडिया द मैक्सिमम इज रेन्यूएबल, बट इन दिस थिंग नहीं है. And then we have grasping key terms, green climate fund पढ़ लेना, then adaptation fund and Fiji and all this करके. Questions, last 2 question, जल्दी जल्दी बता दो. D and second question answer is A. World Bank कर दें. ठीक है, आंसर is B. कहाँ पे यूज करोगे? वे टू यूज द कंसेप्ट. ये जल्दी से सिलेबस को याद कर लो यार, सो दैट वी कैन मेक यूज ऑफ ऑल दीज आर्टिकल्स ऑल्सो. The changes in critical geographical features, water bodies, ice caps, flora, fauna and effect of such changes. तो पूरा geophysical phenomena में यूज हो जाएगा ये geographical part में. Government development issues में भी हो जाएगा, society वाले section में हो जाएगा. Steps taken by the government, national action plan for climate change, homework लिख लो, and state action plan for climate change, NAPCC, और उसके अंदर 8 targets. कभी क्वेश्चन आएगा प्रीलिम्स में? आया? फिर रिपीट नहीं होगा. You can afford to skip. GS2 में पॉवर्टी एंड एनवायरमेंट, वो डायग्राम अच्छे से बना लेना. कोई भी क्वेश्चन आएगा पॉवर्टी और एनवायरमेंट रिलेटेड वाला उसमें डाल देना. इस बार भी आया था पॉवर्टी एंड डेवलपमेंट, तो पॉवर्टी एंड एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन से रिलेटेड आ जाएगा तो उसमें लगा देंगे. Then we have GS. You have to make diagrams, 50 diagrams at least. 50 diagrams or maybe 100 diagrams एक separately बना लो टॉपिक टोटल, और वो भी से कोई टेस्ट सीरीज मेंस की ज्वाइन कर लो और उसमें ड्रॉ करना स्टार्ट.